Forgiving him would feel like losing. That is exactly what they want you to believe. Because the moment you confuse forgiveness with surrender, they own you. Still, even now, every man who told you to just let it go was never the one who got cut that deep. Real forgiveness, not the weak kind. The real kind is the most aggressive act of power a man can perform, and most men never reach it. You know the exact moment it plays back at 3 a.m. Not the whole story, just one scene, his face, what he said, and the part where you did not see it coming. That is the part that never stops. Pure is the part you never say out loud. What cuts deepest is not what he did, it is that you let him in. You vouched for him, you gave him access. So part of you blames yourself, and you cannot shake it. So you cannot just move on, because moving on without resolution feels like admitting you deserved it, and you did not. So instead you carry it. And carrying it is slowly costing you things you have not yet named. Here is what the research on rumination actually shows. Men who replay betrayal by a trusted equal, not a stranger, but someone they elevated, experience a specific dominance threat response. The brain does not just feel pain, it feels demotion, status stripped, and that demotion signal, that I was made smaller signal, is what makes revenge feel urgent, not justice, not morality. Your nervous system is trying to reclaim rank. That is the trap. Revenge does not restore rank. It proves you never left the fight. There is one night in Marcus Aurelius's life almost no one talks about. His co-emperor, Lucius Verus, his brother in title, his partner in rule, died. And documents surfaced after that told Marcus something devastating. Lucius had been quietly undermining him to his own generals for years. He did not destroy the record. He did not smear Lucius in the histories. He gave him a full state funeral. He wept at the tomb, genuinely, not for performance, because he understood something about power that most men never learn. Bet. Same week, Marcus wrote in his private journal, "Not for the public." Remember, never for the public, that a man who cannot separate his enemies from his own virtue has made his enemies his rulers, not his conquerors, his rulers. He was not unaffected. That is the part people get wrong. He felt it. He was hurt. He was a man. But he refused to let the hurt become his identity. And that refusal, that specific refusal, is what made him unreachable. The Stoics called it the discipline of assent. It means this: you choose what you grant power over you. Not emotionally, you cannot always choose how you feel, but you choose what you build inside yourself in response. That is total jurisdiction, and it cannot be taken from you. When you spend your energy on revenge, even just planning it, even just imagining it, you are handing the keys of your inner world to the one man who least deserves them. Your enemy does not have to do another thing. You are doing it for him. Forgiveness, real forgiveness, is not saying what he did was acceptable. It is saying, I am taking the keys back. I am ending your occupation of my mind. You do not pay rent here anymore. That is not mercy for him. That is war, declared inside your own soul. I know exactly what you are thinking. That sounds nice. But he has not paid for what he did. If I forgive him, I am letting him win. I hear you. That thought is not weakness. It is a completely rational response to a real injustice. But here is the thing. It is also a cage. And you built it. He should pay. Maybe he never will. And waiting for justice that the universe has not delivered and may never deliver means your life runs on his schedule, not yours. The most dangerous thing you can do to your enemy is refuse to wait for him. Here is what no one tells you about forgiveness. It is not a single act. It is a capacity. And like all capacities, strength, endurance.com, only the men who have been pushed past their limit and came back from it can develop it. You cannot fake this one. You have to earn it. Every man who has ever forgiven a true betrayal, not a small offense, a real one, where real damage was done, expanded into a version of himself his enemy could never have imagined when they struck. The betrayal did not make that man. His response to it did. Power returns the moment forgiveness stops being about him, when it stops being for him, when it becomes entirely, selfishly, unapologetically about who you are choosing to become. That is the shift. That is when the weight comes off. That is the moment weak men never find. Marcus practiced this first. Before anything else, he named the exact nature of what had been done. Not the event, but the wound beneath it. Not he betrayed me, but specifically he diminished my trust in my own judgment. Name yours tonight. That specific. That honest, because the wound you name is the wound you can heal. The wound you refuse to name becomes the story you keep telling yourself at 3 a.m. until you are 60 years old and still rehearsing a conversation with a man who has already moved on from you. Marcus's second practice was separating observation from judgment. He would write about difficult men as if describing weather not with coldness, but with precision. He acted out of fear. He acted out of smallness, not as excuses, as facts. It removes their power to surprise you again. When you understand why someone betrays, truly understand it, not to excuse it, but to see it clearly, they lose the ability to define you. You are no longer the man who was betrayed by him. You become the man who saw through him. That is a different kind of man entirely. The third step is the most practical. You stop making him the reference point for your decisions. You stop building in reaction to what he did. You start building toward something that would exist whether he had betrayed you or not. This is the most dangerous thing a betrayed man can do. When what you are building has nothing to do with him and everything to do with who you actually are, that is when the forgiveness becomes real, not performed, not forced, real, because you are no longer in the same story he is in. You wrote a different one. I need you to hear this part. The man who never forgives his greatest enemy does not stay the same. He shrinks, slowly, year by year. The bitterness calcifies around the best parts of him, the warmth, the trust, the risk-taking, until what is left is a man shaped entirely by a wound, and his enemy never had to do another thing. And the man who does forgive, who earns the right to forgive by doing the 3 steps, not by skipping them, he does not become softer. He becomes harder to wound. He becomes a man standing so far above the original insult that looking back at it requires him to look down. That is the only revenge worth having. You came into this watching a video about forgiveness, but that is not really what happened here. What happened is, you spent time with a version of yourself who survived this and built something from it. That man does not need his enemy to lose. That man has already decided to win. That is who you are right now, watching this. Weak men need their enemies to suffer so they can feel safe. Powerful men forgive so their enemies become irrelevant. There is only one of those men your enemy is afraid of, and it is not the one still waiting for justice. If something in this landed, save it. Not for motivation. Come back to it on the night it gets hard again, because it will. And when it does, you will need to remember what you actually are. We will be here. Aion Stoic.